What happens when award-winning entrepreneurs from the western edge of Europe travel to countries on the eastern edge of the world? In a unique challenge, 3 of Ireland's leading business talents have agreed to travel to Asia, where they'll kickstart initiatives to help the poorest of the poor. Will hope survive when first world ambitions and third world realities come face to face? India is a nation of contradictions. The country that has produced many billionaires is also battling with environmental degradation, illiteracy, and persistent malnutrition. Over 400 million people live below the poverty line. Heraty, founder of CPL, one of Ireland's most successful recruitment agencies, was the winner of the 2006 Entrepreneur of the Year award.
Heraty is exceptional. She's built a huge business out of her people skills. She's fantastic listening skills, which have proved to be very valuable in the way she's gone about her business. And I think when she gets to India, those skills will come to the fore and help her deliver an exceptional startup enterprise.
Anne's husband Paul will be running the business while she's gone. She has no idea of what might be facing her on a trip like this, but all the family are very supportive.
My family, they're very supportive, and they think it's a great thing that I'm doing, and Paul obviously is with me all the way on it.
I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be a great trip. It's very exciting to see how, how effectively how she can get on in terms of setting something up and making something happen.
I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like. I think it'll be very different for me. I've never been to India before. I think it's going to be pretty challenging and pretty difficult. I don't really know what to expect, to be honest with you. Oh, Jesus.
The Sundarbans Delta region is one of the largest single tracts of mangrove forests in the world, spreading itself from West Bengal into huge areas of southern Bangladesh. It is a complex ecosystem of islands and mudflats. In the Bengali language, Sundarbans literally means beautiful forest. There are no roads to connect the islands, so everyone travels by boat. Everything moves slowly in the Sundarbans.
So where are we going now?
Not quite the Lewis, but it is the only way to get around on the island.
The journey down here was a difficult journey. You need a strong constitution. The roads are very poor. You're basically on dirt roads a lot of the way.
First things first. Anne is anxious to identify what assets already exist on these islands, to see if they might be harnessed to improve the income and quality of life for people here.
I'm just having a look here at the rice, or the paddy as they call it here, and this is the first. I've certainly never seen it like this before. The rice feels very dry.
Reminiscent of Irish agricultural practices in times gone by, the land is divided into smaller parcels. Some of the farmers grow chilies, but the majority produce rice. They are subsistence farmers, and it's their staple diet. It's back-breaking work. There are no tractors or farm machinery on any of these islands. Everything is done by hand, and the heat is intense. The Bengal tiger is to be feared in this region, but another far greater threat also looms: global warming. The people of the Sundarbans are living on a year-by-year basis, with the fear of rising tides hanging over these islands. It's already happened. In 2004, the islands were submerged in seawater, and all the crops were lost. Most of the rice grown here is used to make a nutritious meal known as muri. The women make it, and because there is no electricity on the island, it's a very slow and labour-intensive job. Firstly, the rice is soaked for a few days in water. Then it's cooked slowly on an open fire and left to dry. Finally, it is dropped into a large pan filled with fiery hot sand. The rice pops. Because there's no refrigeration, it only stays fresh for a few days and has to be sold quickly at local markets. This is the only source of income for most families. At best, it will earn them the equivalent of €10 a week. Some of the women on the islands have formed groups and collectives. Anne wanted to meet them, to find out about their plight and listen to their stories. She believes that one of the secrets to success in business is listening.
I'm a great believer in listening. I think, people oftentimes have the answers themselves. So I suppose really for me it's about actually talking to them and finding out what they need.
Most of the muri ends up here, at local markets. The big distributors sell their own version all over India, but locally produced muri tastes better. It's unprocessed and it's cheaper. Anne takes the muri taste test.
It's lovely. It's like rice cakes or popcorn or Rice Krispies. It's really lovely. Really crunchy. This is the processed one, and this comes from the mill. It's processed, it comes from the mill. And one of the things I really notice about it is it's not nearly as crunchy as the first one, as the good quality muri that I tried here. There's definitely, I can get the difference there now in the taste and in the quality of them, particularly from the crackle and the sound. It's lovely.
Because there is nowhere on the islands to store the rice, the farmers are forced to sell it quickly and cheaply. In a system like this, they have no chance of ever earning a living for their families. As a result, the children become victims of this situation. Often they are sold or just sent away to work in the towns and cities, sometimes in the belief that they will have a better life, only to end up homeless or sleeping on the streets. Young girls are sold by their families and end up working in the sex trade and the red light districts of the big cities all over India. The parents of these children feel that they have no other choice. Being a mother herself, Anne can understand the pain and suffering that these families are experiencing. Anne has decided to come to Calcutta to see for herself. Goal has been supporting development programs in India since 1977. Clean water, education and sanitation are on a long wish list. Neil Harron is their man on the ground.
I'd be very keen that Anne would see some of the harrowing sights and the harrowing experiences that so many rural poor who migrate to the city experience when they come to Calcutta, to see some of the slum communities in which we in Goal are working with partner organisations. Thank you very much.
present a song for you.
Oh, lovely.
On honor of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, thank you.
When you come down here, it's the heat is the thing, you know, and to look at the children in the environment here, particularly in the school where it's so hot, you just think, how can they cope or manage in that level of heat? And I suppose the other thing that really strikes me is just how placid the kids are. They all are. They're gorgeous. They have big smiles. You think they're living in such incredibly difficult circumstances, and yet, you know, they seem to have this lovely air about them. You know, they're warm, friendly, and open, actually.
Bye-bye.
I think Gold have done very good work here. They've built, like, you know, basic things like toilets and that. You know, they were saying a lot of the women can only go to the toilet in the morning and the evening. They can't go during the day because there's a certain shame around it. So, you know, you can imagine with pregnant women, and life here must be just incredibly difficult.
Neil has worked in India for many years, and now his wife and children live here in Calcutta. He has spent time in the Sundarbans and is very aware of the problems. His know-how and local knowledge of how things work and don't work is very valuable to Anne in her search for solutions. He's also good for a bit of spontaneous market research.
So essentially this would be a typical street seller. Now what he's selling at the moment, what I can see visibly is an item called Chanature, which is a kind of what we'd know as Bombay mix back in Ireland. But I mean, what you'd also expect that they do the parry is that you'd expect similar possibilities in terms of the Moori.
Okay, and you think you could do something like this?
Yeah, I think you could. I mean, largely because it is eaten across all of the classes, the social classes.
Only 1 rupee per plate.
And do you think, like, would you envisage that the Muri would be sold in this way through street sellers, or do you think a more formal organisation?
I think you can, because of the demand, you can look at a whole mix of outlets. I mean, you can look at something as small scale as that to kind of your big 50 kg bag in the market where people dig in with their little shovel and fill up their bags, to kind of meeting the supermarket needs, which supermarkets are growing in Calcutta. There's new ones opening practically daily, so there's options there, absolutely, yeah.
Living is tough for the thousands of children who don't have the opportunity of schooling or have ended up on the streets of Calcutta. There is constant demand for underage workers in the sex industry here, and there is no shortage of supply.
We partner with an organisation that looks after the care and the welfare and the accommodation of children who have either been trafficked into the sex trade or who are the children of commercial sex workers themselves who have been taken out of the red light areas. Mix of very, very harrowing stories, and I would be very keen that Anne would be exposed to some of those, just to set the whole enterprise into a real context.
Hi.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
The Women's Interlink Foundation rescues young girls from the streets of Calcutta. The lucky ones who end up here will experience love and care for the first time in their lives.
Oh, the smell is beautiful.
There are 2 typical stories. One is of girls who live in red light areas, whose mothers are women in prostitution. Or they are also victims, some of them, of prostitution. They are rescued by the police, brought under the Children's Welfare Committee, which is the act under the Juvenile Justice Act, and brought into our home. So that is one scenario, and the other scenario is the children of women in prostitution who are not victimized, who have not been as yet in prostitution, and they need to a safe mooring where they can be educated and acquire some skills so that they don't have to be targets of the traffickers.
আমার মা চলে গেছিলো ছোটোবেলা, তখন আমাকে ওখান থেকে একটা বউ বলেছে চল তোকে কাজে দেবো, আমার সাথে আমাকে মারধর করতো, আমাকে বলেছে চল তোকে কাজে দেবো এক জায়গায়, তোকে নিয়ে যায় ভালো জায়গায়, তোকে মারধর করবে না, ওখানেই থাকবি। তখন কাজে দেওয়ার নাম করে আমাকে বিয়ে দিয়ে দেয়। বিয়ে দেওয়ার পর ওখানে 2-3 মাস মতন ছিলাম, থাকার পর ওখান থেকে পালিয়ে আসি। আসার পর তারপর বাবা মা জোর করে ওখানে দিয়ে আসে, আমার সৎ মা ওখানে জোর করে দিয়ে আসে। তারপরে আমি ওখান থেকে চলে আসি। আসার পর তারপর আমাদের বাড়ির পাশে একটা লোক আমাকে বলে যে তোকে ভালো জায়গায় কাজে দেবো, আর তোর কোনো কষ্ট হবে না। আর ঠিক আছে, আপনি যখন বলছেন তাহলে আমি যে কাজেই আপনার সঙ্গে যাবো, তখন ওই করে আমাকে বিক্রি করে দিয়েছে। ওখান থেকে আমি আবার পালিয়ে আসি, একটা লোকের সাহায্যে পালিয়ে আসি। আসার পর তারপরে এখান থেকে আমার দাদা আপনার সঙ্গে যোগাযোগ করে এখন হোমে ভর্তি করে দিয়েছে। এখন আমি পড়াশোনা করছি। আমি ভেবেছি যে আমার জীবনে যা হয়েছে একটা অ্যাক্সিডেন্ট, সেই সব ভুলে যেতে চাই। এখন আমি নতুন জীবন আবার শুরু করতে চাই।
হায়দ্রাবাদে থাকতাম, ওখানে কাজের বাড়িতে থাকতাম, ওদের বাড়িতে কাজ থাকতাম। তা একদিন ভীষণ ঝগড়া মারপিট হয়েছে, তা আমাকে বলেছে মারপিট করে আমাকে মেরেছে। আমি বলেছি এখানে থাকবো না, আমি চলে যাবো। তারপর আমি ওখান থেকে কলকাতায় চলে এসেছি। ওখান থেকে আমি একা হেঁটে হেঁটে আসছি। তারপরে একটা দাদা আমাকে ধরে একটা বৌদির কাছে রাখতে দিচ্ছি। রাতে ওদের বাড়িতে ছিলাম। তারপর উনি বললো একটা পুলিশে হাওয়ালে করে দাও, পুলিশের কাছে দিয়ে দিচ্ছে।
That's the thing you certainly get a sense of here, that women and children are exploited very quickly and very easily. And I think if there's anything we can do to help actually try and keep people in the more rural areas and down in the Sunderbans so that they don't, and to give them life skills down there, that they don't have to end up moving when they're very young to the urban areas, I think it would be great.
Having visited the slums of Calcutta and listened to the harrowing stories of the young girls, Anne is determined to apply what she has learnt to help the people of the Sunderbans. It is the women who are most concerned. Anne knows that she is not here to fix their lives, but to help them plant the seed that will grow into something more. She's going to suggest that they set up a co-op.
I think it's really important that they form some sort of cooperative or community type group where all the producers of Muri are working together.
Yeah, and we are also believe in that way, because the individual is the joint effort is really better than the individual effort.
The joint effort.
This is the joint effort.
Yeah. The women are they're in a good place in that the self-help group is very well structured. Basically what they have is they have groups of 15 to 20 women throughout different villages and throughout the community here, and then they report into a further smaller group who then report into a federation. So actually there's a very good structure in place there to work with. What was very interesting about the meeting was certainly in the beginning they were talking all the time about the issues and challenges that they have and all the problems, particularly in terms of the pricing of the rice and getting it to market, and the transport issues they have and how they can't move outside their local market. And, then I moved into talking a little bit to them about what if they try to do something with the rice, like add something to it to make it a little bit more added value, and therefore maybe they could charge a higher price for it. And they couldn't see that at all in the beginning, but actually when I showed them, what we buy typically in Dublin, and I showed them the puffed rice and I asked them to taste it, and they just said, but this is just Muri with honey and sugarcane. And I was saying, that's exactly right, that's what it is, but this little bag is €5 in Dublin. And, that's just, they're getting like maybe less than €1 for a kilo of Muri. So I could see their minds beginning to open up a little bit. In the market town of Rydiga, And this is actually on the mainland. The only way that the people from the Sunderbans can connect with the mainland now is by boat. It's just bedlam. I mean, it's incredible. You get all human life is here in this market, and they're all seem to be going about doing some sort of business.
This is where the middlemen come in. They buy the rice and chilies from the island farmers and sell it on to the distributors who own the storehouses and the mills. They also control the price. Rice is the lifeblood of the Sunderbans, and every grain is precious. Anne is learning fast.
There seems to be an issue here that the producers of the rice are selling to middlemen who are then really they're selling on. So, they're really not making the kind of profit that they should be. In fact, they're making very little money when they sell forward to the middlemen. So we're really just looking to see how the whole system works here, to see what, if there's any moves we can make in that direction. If the middleman says this is the only price I'm going to give you and that's that, they have no option but to sell because they can't store it. So it'll just rot and there's no point in them bringing it home. So actually, a lot of the time, I suspect the farmers and the producers are actually working for nothing. They're not making anything really because the middleman is dictating the price. So the plan is that we're going to build one warehouse for every 2 villages. We have 24 villages. That's going to be 12 warehouses. There are 85,000 people spread among those 24 villages. And then when we have that up and running, which we hope will be well ready for their next season, then the plan is to look at the feasibility of building a much bigger facility on the mainland where they can use, better technology and cold storage.
Now Anne has to persuade the exclusively male farmers' representatives to store their produce in warehouses, which will be owned and controlled by the Women's Cooperative. It's all about laying foundations for the future.
Okay, so now we're clear about the co-op. And as well as making Murray, we see that there's a real possibility here for us to also take chilies and to make chili powder and to brand that with a Sunderman's brand. What was really good about today is that we actually put some tangible timelines in place. We have some goals and targets to achieve. I think everybody is clear on where they're going and what the different roles and responsibilities are. So I think particularly they want to be ready for when the next crop comes. So there's a lot of work to be done in a very short space of time. But I think what's really heartening is everybody's very excited about it. They've really bought into the vision about it, and I think they can really see a different type of future for these products. It's about getting the right group of people together, and I think I'm very comfortable that we have the right group of people together, and I think they're very clear that they want to focus on one goal first, to get it working for one product, and once it's working for that product, then take the steps to roll it out for other products.
Anne Heraty knows that by empowering people and giving them the resources to solve their own problems, they will navigate for themselves the road to success. Sustainable industries will create employment and open up new opportunities for all who live here in the Sunderbans. Despite all its hardships, for them, this place will always be home. All of the entrepreneurs featured in this series have committed to revisit their initiatives in 12 months' time, with the cameras rolling. Next week, we will meet the finalists who are competing to be crowned the 2007 Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year.